How did Reddit become one of the world's most popular and influential websites? Who are the founders, and why did they sell a product worth billions of dollars for just 10 million? Let's find out. Currently valued at around $7 billion in 2024, founders Alexis Ohanian and Steve Huffman sold Reddit just 16 months after launching the site for a meager $10 million. Reflecting on the decision 14 years later, Ohanian said, "I wish I'd had more advisors around the table giving me more perspective on the sale. I thought I was getting away with something. Because for 16 months of work, I was getting more money than my parents had made their entire working lives. And there were lots of things about management, team building, leadership, that I desperately needed to learn. But to be honest, my mom's illness weighed on me the most. She was diagnosed with terminal brain cancer just a couple months into founding the company. So the idea of rewarding her lifelong, unflagging confidence in me with a $10 million exit was tremendously appealing." Alexis Ohanian always had a knack for leadership and storytelling.
No, we are the first class of the millennium. The outcome of this graduating class will depend on only ourselves.
He was born in Brooklyn, New York, and grew up in Baltimore. At his high school graduation, he gave the student address, not because he was the valedictorian, but simply because his school let anyone audition for the speech.
I challenge each and every one of you to go out and do something. Something that inspires you, something that enriches you, something that leaves your mark on society.
The founders of Reddit, Alexis Ohanian and Steve Huffman, met each other at the University of Virginia. Having had little faith that he would meet another gamer like himself, Ohanian was thrilled when he saw Huffman playing Gran Turismo 2 and introduced himself. The pair soon became close friends and co-workers. The summer after their junior year, Ohanian and Huffman came up with the idea for a mobile food ordering company called My Mobile Menu and spent the following year working on it.
And instead, I came back home and said, "Steve, dude, we need to build something together because I don't want to have a job I don't love."
In the spring of 2005, they decided to attend a talk given by entrepreneur and investor Paul Graham at Harvard.
It was such a fateful talk. Here we were, two undergrads planning to start a startup, and so the timing couldn't have been better.
After the talk, Huffman asked Paul Graham to sign his book. And this was the moment that Ohanian began chatting with the esteemed investor.
I actually got Paul's attention, started chatting him up, basically so I could get him to sign my book.
And then I said, "Dr. Graham, it would totally be worth the cost of buying you a drink to get your opinion on our startup."
The two college students met with Paul Graham and pitched their idea of My Mobile Menu to him.
Paul sits down and he says, "Okay, let me hear your pitch." I'm like, "All right."
To their surprise, he loved the idea, proclaiming it the end of lines.
He was like, this is going to be the end of lines.
And shortly after, Graham invited Ohanian and Huffman to apply for the venture capital firm that he had just launched, Y Combinator. But despite applying with the same idea that they had already pitched before, the soon-to-be founders of Reddit were rejected, or so they thought.
"We talked about it, and we still don't like your idea." It's like, "You just called to tell me that you still don't like the idea?" And he said, no, hold on. "But we like you two. We believe in you two. And as long as you change your idea and come up with anything else, we'll invest in you."
They were then encouraged by Paul Graham to create not a mobile app, but a website, calling it the front page of the internet. Ohanian and Huffman began working on what would become Reddit.
And that's the two of us on the first day of Y Combinator. It's like class photo day.
And after just 3 weeks of development, Graham prematurely advertised the site in one of his essays, attracting a lot more visitors than they could handle. This was combined with the founders' early efforts to make Reddit seem more alive by creating posts and users themselves. Beyond the core functionality of posting and ranking links, they added new features such as the ability to comment and create subreddits. By 2006, Reddit had taken off, and just 16 months into the site's life, Ohanian and Huffman were approached by the media conglomerate Condé Nast, who offered to purchase Reddit. Lacking the foresight that their creation would later be worth billions, Ohanian and Huffman sold Reddit to Condé Nast for just $10 million. Ohanian remained on as CEO of the company, but left Reddit about 3 years later to pursue other projects and business ventures. Meanwhile, Reddit's popularity grew exponentially. February 2011, Reddit reached 1 billion page views per month, and within a year, staggeringly, the site had doubled that number. But due to its anonymous and unfiltered nature, Reddit was also increasingly being accused of providing a safe haven for depravity and hate speech.
This particular troll created several controversial, many would say creepy and twisted forums on the website Reddit. One was called Jailbait, and it featured sexually suggestive photographs of teenagers.
The fact that subreddits like r fat people hate, r beating women, and r hurting animals, among many others, were allowed to exist on Reddit under the pretense of free speech was now causing the site to come under heavy public scrutiny.
If Reddit has to be one of the platforms where those people exist and express themselves, so be it.
a mounting pressure that eventually caused the executives at the time to begin banning problematic subreddits. However, efforts to streamline the popular website were not limited to the filtering of subreddits. To the great displeasure of Reddit's user base, who responded with a massive uproar, initiatives were now being made to better capitalize on one of the more popular phenomena on Reddit, the so-called AMAs, short for Ask Me Anything, a concept in which unique professionals, celebrities, or other persons of interest would join the masses of Reddit and answer any questions its users may have. Notable examples include Bill Gates and Barack Obama. In 2015, under the leadership of interim CEO Ellen Pao, a key Reddit admin who was instrumental in facilitating the popular AMAs, was suddenly fired, prompting a month-long outrage from the community and the eventual resignation of Pao. However, one of Reddit's former CEOs, Yishan Wang, then stepped forward and said that Alexis Ohanian, who at the time, chairman of the board, actually had been responsible for the decision to fire the admin. When the hate train started up against Pao, Alexis should have been out front and center, saying very clearly, Ellen Pao did not make this decision. I did, Wang wrote. Instead, he just sat back and let her take the heat. That's a stunning lack of leadership and an incredibly shitty thing to do. Soon after, Ohanian responded with a comment on Reddit, which would be heavily downvoted by the site's users, in which he apologized while simultaneously lauding the return of his old friend and co-founder, Steve Huffman, who would be returning as CEO of the company. It was my decision to change how we work with AMAs, and the transition was my failure, and I hope we can keep moving forward from that lesson. Today was another step. I'm really excited to be working with Steve again, and appreciate what Ellen did during her time here. For a time, Ohanian and Huffman had taken back the reins of the massively influential site that they had created, and would again be steering Reddit forward. To this day, Huffman remains CEO, while Ohanian resigned as chairman of the board in June 2020 and has since been dedicating his time and energy into other ventures, such as the early-stage venture capital fund that he co-founded, 776. Despite way underselling his and Huffman's creation in 2006, Ohanian has since managed to cement himself as an important player in the world of consumer technology and venture capital.